thing you need to know is that Tomas is a man who I dated for a little while after my husband died. You are so sexy. I'm coming again. Is anyone counting here? I was in bed with a sex machine and not happy about it. Tragicomically, and now, much too late, I realized that I would have been happier with a good warm hug. I had failed utterly at my first attempt at dating. This was now a pathetic bungle that would require a laundry load of sheets, perhaps boiled, at the rate this guy was going. He had seemed a bit overeager, but I was sympathetic when he told me he'd been single for a while. I knew, though I wasn't telling, that my own motives were utterly impure. I was a disaster area. All I cared about was getting laid in a safe manner, perhaps just so that I could tell myself that I was really moving beyond Tomas. Imperfect as that situation had been, I had felt connected to Tomas on a level I knew would take time to find again. Tomas and I had been friends before we became lovers. We had always liked each other as people, and I had loved him genuinely. Rich lived in a town south of mine. When he contacted me from my online profile, the convenience was undeniably appealing, as childcare was always my predicament, even with the new babysitter. Rich and I went for a walk one evening after our initial meeting at a local bar. He drove to and parked his car at a town park area I'd never seen before, and knew I'd never in a million years find again. He took my hand as we walked up a hillside path. I wasn't ready to be holding his hand, and as we approached a steep area, I withdrew my hand to leverage the incline. He remarked that his birthday was coming soon. I took his hand. It is not so great to be anticipating spending your birthday alone. What are your plans then? I asked pleasantly. I never plan anything because terrible things always happen on my birthday. Oh, for Christ's sake, now we'll have a sob story. I had actually tried to minimize my own sob story at dinner. Such as, I continued trying for an upbeat tone, now feeling very wretched about having to hold his hand, some creeping anxiety growing about being alone in this nighttime park with a man who was potentially troubled about the upcoming birthday. Women always chose this day to leave him, he said. Shit, this was some big bad baggage. Almost as heavy as my baggage. Naively, I had hoped to meet someone with much less baggage than I did. I was pretty sure that whatever happened between us wasn't going to work out the way he hoped, and that in fact it might all go down quickly, ending before dawn on the dreaded birthday. There wasn't a long courtship. While I would have liked to have had a little more time to consider what I wanted from him, we reached a, man, this ain't a library, you gonna buy that magazine situation. I felt nothing much for him physically except for a kind of curiosity, but I let him stay one night after feeding him a good roast chicken dinner. And now I was trapped in bed with a yeller. I'd heard about these types, though I'd never met one until now. I might as well have stepped out of my body and gone to the kitchen for a drink of water, as my actual presence did not seem to be required at all. It had devolved into a theatrical performance, one that had stupefied me into embarrassed silence. I believed he very much had hoped to please me. I muffled a snigger, thinking of how I would describe this night for Anna, a friend of mine, offering her a good girly guffaw, perhaps being the only way to salvage anything positive from this evening. Anticipating her explosive laughter brought me back to a self that could endure the mess I'd made. He had 5 orgasms without ever going soft, which was certainly impressive, but numbing. I had to gratify him, if only to make him stop by faking it, a depressing but effective skullduggery. But at last he moaned, "I have to sleep now," and snapped off. I watched him as he slept for a few minutes, then tiptoed out of bed to the bathroom, where I sat quietly on the toilet. I was going to dump him soon, on or just before his birthday. It was too bad, really, because he was a nice guy, and if I hadn't been idiotic enough to have sex with him, he might have become a friend. I could have used a friend who was a guy in addition to an actual boyfriend. Now he'd just have more baggage, and I would feel like shit being too much of a coward to tell him just why I was dumping him. I hoped he'd find a woman who, unlike me, would be happy to be with a guy who could come 5 times in a row. He said he was leaving for a business trip to Los Angeles the next day and promised he'd call me. He did call me, and I chatted friendly-like. And then I did the slimy deed via email. I promised myself next time I would offer myself more time to make a decision I would not regret in the morning. Okay, and now for a little lighter moment. This is a sort of a very domestic episode, and in this little piece, Will is the man that I'm dating, and Liza is my very smart, then 7-year-old daughter, now 13. Back home, after dishes of fruit and ice cream, Liza asks if she can have a bath and if we will read to her. The full restoration of reading time in the evening is an unforeseen benefit of this new relationship. In the face of crisis, such niceties were discontinued for a time. There was laundry to do and work to catch up on. Upstairs, I run the tub, and Liza steps in the water in her cautious way, easing into the froth of bubbles with a grateful ah. Will and I take turns reading. After the bath and teeth brushing, we resume reading in Liza's bedroom, the three of us squashed on her narrow bed. Then I turn the lights out. Will heads for the bedroom, and Liza and I snuggle for a while. I feel tired after the day, afraid I will drop off, as I used to do when she was younger, but I want to have sex more than I want to sleep. I rouse myself and find Will still in the bathroom, brushing his teeth. I brush my teeth, change into my warm flannel robe, and hop under the bed covers, while Will does his stretching exercises recommended for a back injury some years earlier. I remind him of the first time he stayed over. I observed him doing his exercises on that evening with great fascination, intrigued and pleased that he was disciplined enough about his exercises to do them, even when another man might have had more pressing desires like getting my clothes off. We didn't even have sex that night. It was part of the plan to take things slowly. But now we are old hands, so to speak. Liza comes in briefly to tell me that she has finished book 18 of the Boxcar Children. I congratulate her and give her another bedtime kiss. Will wishes her good night and tells her he loves her. She offers a muffled response. She is still finding her way in this new situation. It will take time for her to find out what will be good for her. I resettle Liza in her bed and return, closing the bedroom door before climbing back into the warm bed. I'm always cold, and Will's body is warm under the covers. He's a good size for me, trim but not overdone in the muscle department. The legs of a cyclist taper gently to sculpted knees, well-proportioned calves, slim ankles, and well-defined feet. His torso is slim but filled out nicely at the shoulders. He has a slender neck, a small cleft chin, a large and angular nose with a dent from his days as a junior boxer, and those very blue eyes and his elfin, or are they Vulcan, ears, and not much hair. He just had his head shaved, so. His arms are surprisingly strong for his slim build. He lifts me up into a playful toss. The brief seconds in the air are thrilling. I am relieved to land solidly on the bed with a bounce. Now we are facing each other with our legs overlapped under the covers. He is wearing a t-shirt and a pair of green Christmas boxer shorts decorated with wee reindeer. I am still wearing my flannel bathrobe. He seems dreamy and tired, and I think maybe we'll just enjoy this and we won't make love. We embrace and draw each other tighter. His hands wander around under the covers, touching me on my waist and in the space between my lower back and the rise of my bum. We kiss and he sighs and I sigh. He says I am a sex bomb. This is a very good thing for a woman to hear when she is 45. I am thinking, Dayenu, it would have been the refrain from the Jewish Passover prayer. If God had just brought us into the desert for 40 years and not given us manna, it would have been enough. But he did give us manna. Life is good, even for a heathen Jewish girl who can't remember any of the other words of this Hebrew prayer. Off with the flannel robe, off with the t-shirt, off with the Christmas boxer shorts. Later, we drift off to sleep, pulling the warm covers back over and nestling in tight like furry, hibernating animals. Sleep is overtaking, my eyes are closing, and my final thought is yes, a big bold word in bubble letters, with outlines and drop shadows and shades of hot pink, red, and orange, and an animated John Lennon prancing in Pepperland, waking up from their paralyzed gray sleep, and the blue meanies relenting at last with the opening trumpet blast of the sampled Marseillaise. And then the music softens, the letters collapse softly, and the room is peaceful darkness.